and have people realize that your job is not your identity now. So where you are now, you can change. I thought 30 was old. I thought I couldn't change. I couldn't go back to school. It's not true. Don't waste the rest of your life thinking that like you can only stay in one career. And that is not true at all. You know, the way that they have these different courses and careers and, all the different boot camps set up, like it is possible to change your life now, and change your life, change your family's life. It is incredible.
Imagine investing $5,000 for a boot camp for a career you've never heard of. No degree, no tech background, just a hope that it might work out. That's exactly what David did when he left his 8-year career in healthcare to pursue software QA. First, it sounded almost too good to be true. But what happened next? Over 3,000 job applications, countless rejections, and a journey that tested his grit every step of the way. Today, David's a QA engineer in tech. And in this episode, we're breaking down exactly how he made the leap, what it took, and why he wouldn't trade it for anything. This is the real story behind the pivot, and you don't want to miss it. David, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Do you mind just taking a few minutes and kind of telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I started as a dietitian, and that's what I thought my dream and career aspiration was pretty much my whole life. And so I became a dietitian and got into healthcare. And then I realized I hated it. And so I was about 30 years old. I hit my third year crisis, whatever. And I realized I had to make a change. I was working a ton of hours. I was working an hour away from my house. And at the time I probably had 2 or 3 kids. And now I have 4 now. And I realized that like I can't do this anymore. It's putting a strain on the family, strain on me mentally. I wasn't happy. And so I literally just Googled, because I knew I wanted to get into tech somehow, but I also did not have 4 years to go back and get a degree.
Right.
I went to school for 5 years, I'm done. I'm not going back. I don't have the money, don't have the time. So I literally Googled, careers in tech that don't require a degree. And then, a couple things would come up. I thought about maybe taking like a coding boot camp or something. And then I kept seeing, software QA, you don't need a degree, take this course, you don't need a degree. I was like, that doesn't really seem right. But it's like, I also have one of those, everything seems rosier than it is, I want to believe things are true.
Yeah.
And I've gotten bitten by a couple of investment scams, and so I thought gosh, is this another one of those? And, tried to convince my wife to hey, this is the next great thing. So I found this program, this career course called Careerist. And basically it's a 2-month course, and they offer a couple different levels. Some that's just manual QA, which is strictly non-coding. And then they also offer an automation QA, which does include coding as well. And it sounded too good to be true. 100% too good to be true. I didn't believe it. And I did more research in it. I was like, maybe this is. I hadn't even heard of what software QA was. Didn't even know anything about it. And I honestly, I didn't know anyone who did it either. So I didn't have a person to talk to. It's is this a good career path to go on? I had no real guidance. So it was really just YouTube videos, watching people kind of like yourself, giving people the opportunity in the space for real life people to showcase okay, this is a real career. This is the real thing. And one thing led to another, and started the course, and yeah, here we are today.
That's crazy. And I'm super excited actually to unpack all this. And I kind of want to step back to the beginning because you have an interesting story. Can you tell us a bit about your background as a dietitian and what was that moment that made you decide this isn't working out? You kind of mentioned a little bit, but can you go into a bit more of what was that eye opening, a change is going to have to happen?
Yeah, a lot of it was we were just working more and more and more hours. And I was in food service, in school food service. And so it's basically you're running large teams, and it was basically you're now HR. And so you're just handling hundreds and hundreds of staff. And it was this isn't fun anymore. I don't enjoy this. You're getting calls at 5 a.m. because the kitchen's open early. Things breaking down at night. You got to try to fix it. Everyone's calling off. The money was not where I wanted to be. I think at the time, I ended, I think I left there at $67,000.
Oh, wow.
And that was with one of the largest school districts in Michigan.
That's crazy.
So, and that's at 67, 5 years of school. And handling a lot, you know, it's 67,000. And so then I start to see, and so there was a, I don't know if there was an exact moment, but it was one of the things that like some like higher up decisions were made, and I was like, I don't really agree with this. Why am I doing this? There's got to be something else. You know, I know I'm capable. I've been to school for a long time, but I didn't want to feel stuck as a dietitian. It's hard. Like I feel like I did this myself to make my job my identity,
Right.
and to feel like that is okay. I'm a dietitian. I can only be a dietitian. It's silly now, but at the time I thought 30 is too late to go back and restart a career.
I'm old.
You know, like I've got a family, I've got a house. Like, there's no way I can do that. I can't just restart my career.
Yeah.
A lot of googling and a lot of YouTube, and careerists. And so I settled on careers. Yeah, so there wasn't exactly a defining moment, but it was basically like a little bit. It was probably a 6 month period that I was like, okay, I am really hating this job now. I'm really hating this, and being a dietitian as a whole, I was like, I don't really love it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I knew that like I knew I wanted to get into IT, but I didn't know what. And so I thought like, okay, to be a developer, to be a coder, you know, that seems like okay, those people are very smart. They've got their computer science degrees. That takes a long time to do, and I can't do this. But then the more I watched shows like yours and like heard stories of people like, oh, I did take a boot camp, and you know, it was 6 months of hard work or 5 months of hard work, but I was able to get a six-figure job, and I was able to do that. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty crazy. And so I kind of started down that path. I took some basic coding classes, and I was like, this is gonna take me because I tried to do it on my own first. You know, I was like, oh, I don't actually want to do. I didn't want to spend. You know, some of those boot camps are 10, 12 to $14,000,
Yeah.
and so I thought, let me see if I can do it on my own. And you know, one of the benefits of a boot camp is like it's fast paced. It's hard work. It's fast paced. And like everything is given to you as opposed to like on the internet, there's so much like, hey, you go down this path, go down this path, go down this path. And you don't know what you don't know, you know? So you try to like, okay, is this important? Is this not important? And take you a while. So I started that. So for a couple months, you know, I was up every morning at 4 o'clock trying to code before work, trying to like get, you know, trying to create these little projects and stuff, you know, and looking back now, it was kind of a waste of time. Um, but I ended up settling on software QA. Like, okay, this is something that I can start. It doesn't seem like it takes much schooling. Like the course is 2 months, and it seemed like this is very doable. And so yeah, I took this careers course, and 100% a lot. And this, and you probably say this all the time with a lot of your people is you get out of it what you put in it. And I wish I thought this way when I was in college because like utilizing the coaches. So careers have so you have your normal classes. I think it was 2 days a week, and you can you if you want to watch them live, you can do them live with the instructor. You can ask questions and all that. Or if you were like me and like I got home from work too late and I couldn't do that, so like I can just watch them at midnight if I had to. Um, and then they had instructors, a ton of instructors, and a lot of them were overseas. So if I was watching it at midnight, I could have a live call with them at any time I wanted. It was awesome. So if I'm up at 4 in the morning, I could contact somebody and like, hey, like I'm trying to work on this project. I don't know what this is. And I could have a live call. And I did it almost every single day. You know, so like I got my money worth, you know.
That's awesome.
So just make sure whatever boot camp you're doing, a lot of them offer coaching like that. Take advantage of it. Ask your questions. Get your money's worth. You know, these people, they are here to help you. They do love helping you. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was able to get a job was because I really dove into it. And like I don't have a choice. I cannot fail. I can't. You know, I have 4 kids at home, you know. I can't. And so yeah, it was a struggle.
I'm curious. So you mentioned, you when you are looking at careers, it seemed like it was too good to be true, and you had your doubts. Like, what were some of your biggest doubts when you were first looking at them, and also comparing them to other boot camps out there as well?
I think the biggest thing was I'm gonna spend. I think at the time I think it was $5,000. So I'm gonna spend $5,000 for this job I've never even heard of, and they're saying that the average pay I think was somewhere between like 60 and 80,000. And I was like, that seems very high. I was like, I'm in the middle of nowhere, Michigan. Like there's no way that any of these companies are gonna pay that much money. And so that was kind of my big concern. So it's like I don't mind spending the money. I understand you go to college. You know, if you go to college, you're gonna spend money on courses. Great. but will you get out what they actually promise? And that was kind of like, if I'm going to put this time and effort in, will I get out what has been promised? That was the scariest moment for me. Was like, is this real? Is it not real? I have no idea. No one I knew, no family members, no friends had even heard of this. They were like, David, this is not real. Like, companies are going to pay you to like do manual QA. And so for the audience who doesn't actually know what manual QA is, basically is before a app or a website or an email or anything that a company is producing, QA checks it. And so they check all the links, all the tracking, all the buttons, anything that is supposed to work, make sure it works, make sure, nothing is misaligned. And it seems kind of silly that, like, okay, this is even a job, but we find issues all day long. So developers are developing these things, and then they're like, "Yep, send it, send it, send it. Yep, looks good, send it." And then so then they have this third party. They have a QA person who goes through and checks it, like, "Hey, oh, this is actually broken. This link doesn't work. Send it back to developers. Developers check it, they fix it again, and send it back." So it's a big loop. But that's basically what manual QA is in a nutshell. And it seems like, why do they need that? And 100% they do. Even though like AI is coming out, and I was worried as well that, like, okay, AI is going to take all these manual jobs. And basically the truth is AI is helping developers develop things faster. And we have manual QA also uses tools to help QA things faster. But there are still misses all the time. There's issues, there's bugs. You still need a human to check AI 100%.
Absolutely.
Especially like these bigger, imagine you've got Nike, you've got any of these buttons. If their buy now button does not work, how many millions of dollars a day is that going to cost them? So just to make sure that like every button works
Yeah.
is huge. And so apparently it's a thing, and 100% it's a thing.
What finally pushed you to make that big of an investment? I mean, a lot of people listening to this, like 5 grand is like no small chump change. That's a decent size investment. What was there like something that finally like, okay, I think I'm gonna just do this.
Yeah, I knew I was going to take some course. So I tried it on my own for a couple months, and I realized like this is going to take forever. This is going to take way too long. I don't have the time for this. And honestly, like, not to give personal finance advice, but take out a interest-free credit card. Take out an interest-free credit card ahead of time, and then put it on whatever course you take, put it on that, and then just, if it's a 12-month interest-free credit card, then just roll it over into another interest-free credit card. And that way it's interest-free, even if you don't have the money. So, so that's definitely what I did. I didn't have $5,000. And so interest-free credit card, put it on that, and then just pray that it works. But yes, it was, I think I was just taking way too long to actually get any progress. And I was going back and forth between doing like some like doing like a full stack boot camp, a front end boot camp, like one of those things. And I am so glad I didn't, because like now with AI, like those are the ones who are those are the ones who are losing their jobs. I didn't do those specifically because it just took too long. Those were like intensive, and as they should be. Like, you're learning new languages, and it's 6 months, and like you're spending 4 or 5 hours plus homework and all that. Like, I didn't have that time, so I needed something that I could do at night, and also that like would be a quick turnaround.
What was your learning curve like coming from like a non-technical background? Was it like drinking from a fire hose the whole time, or was there a point where you're finally like, okay, this isn't too bad?
In the beginning, it was a little harder because I had zero technical anything. Besides from my, just like what I've learned on YouTube, but I had no proper training. I had no nothing. And in the beginning, it was kind of hard because it's a different profession. So it's kind of like, because you're not like in it, it's like, well, what does this mean? What does a developer do? What is, like, even like understanding the whole software life cycle, basically. So like, how is software built? Like, how are applications built? How are apps built? I had zero knowledge of how any of that worked. And so that was kind of the biggest learning curve. But once you are, I don't know, within the first couple weeks, and it's like, okay, this actually makes sense, and like this is what they do. And they do a really good job of giving you real life training of like, okay, this is what, this is how you would, if you were on a job. Because most things they do, they focus on what would a regular job be like. So they give you real world scenarios, and you're constantly doing like projects. So you're constantly like, they'll give you a project during the class, and then part of your homework is to then complete it. And then they have, if you have any questions on your homework, you can go back and forth with some of the coaches, the instructors. But yeah, in the beginning, little bit of a learning curve, but overall, 100% anybody can do manual QA. 100%. Basically, if you can use a computer, you can do QA. You know.
That's cool. Oh, and let's dive into that a little bit more. I'm curious, like, can you kind of describe what the day to day looked like while you're in the course? You know, you mentioned you're working on projects and you sometimes would, call and get help with those and stuff like that. But what did the course load actually like look like? What were you learning?
Yeah, so in the beginning, if I remember correctly, so it was 2 days a week, and each lesson was, maybe it's 3 days a week. Each lesson was 2 hours or hour and a half, 2 hours at a time, and it basically go through like, okay, you're given this project, and uh, you're given a PDF. So basically, companies will make, this is what we want our website to look like, and so they have a designer who designs this. We want our website to look like this, and then they give you what the developers actually developed, and they say go find all the issues, and so they show you the proper way to actually write these up, which is exactly the way I do it in my current job now. So the
Nice.
exact template they showed you is the exact way. My first day, they were like, "Hey, like this is how we want you to do it. I don't know if you've done it like this." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I do it like that all the time," you know. And
That's awesome.
they show you exactly what you would do in a normal everyday job. So it was awesome. So in the beginning, it's tough because like you're kind of, think like now looking back, it's like, wow, that was actually really easy. But at the time, like you're brand new, you're learning all these new things, and so it was, I wouldn't say difficult, but it was a little bit of a challenge. But within the first couple weeks, you'll be able to get the hang of it, no problem at all.
That's so cool. Like, did it like still though, did it feel challenging? Like, like if you're learning, coding, people are really intimidated by that. Did you have to do any like coding or anything like that? Or was this just kind of learning processes and systems?
Right, yeah, so zero coding. If you're strictly doing manual, it's zero coding.
Nice.
Really just processes. So like, what do you do? How do you do it? How do you write this up? Basically, what does the developer want to see and need to see? So if you're writing up a bug, if like you're trying to click on a button and the button doesn't work, how do you let the developer know quickly what the issue is, and where in the screen it is? So because developers get paid a ton of money, you want them to be able to be in and out quickly, find it, fix it, and then get moving. Because typically with a lot of these applications, so like today, I found 30 issues
Wow.
on one email. And so a developer's got to be able to go through all of my tickets and be able to look through, okay, this is an issue, fix it. This is an issue, fix it. He's got to find it quick and fix it. Because otherwise, if I don't write it correctly, or if I'm not clear about what the problem is, then he's going to take forever to find it. So that's a strong majority of it is just writing up issues. So you've most of the job is just being detail oriented, which is a huge benefit if you are in a career. So a lot of people who are teachers end up being QAs. If you're a copywriter, great QAs, secretaries, office workers, admin workers. If you do any type of like bookmaking, great. So if you are detail oriented and you see that, okay, like that shouldn't be like that and that shouldn't be like that, those are all great career paths that you can jump right into QA,
Nice.
because everything you're doing is already QA, and now you're just doing in a software, and that's all it is.
That that's really cool. Now, you said you applied for over 3,000 jobs. That's nuts. And you only got 3 interviews out of that. Like, how did you manage to like keep going? And like to me, like 3,000 jobs, I'd be thinking like, man, I did I pick the wrong career path? Did I just do something wrong? What am I doing?
Yep.
How did you keep going through and persevering?
Yeah, so one of the nice things about careers was up front, even before you paid the money, they explained that. They said like most people will take 1 to 2,000 job applications before they land a job.
It's crazy.
So that's what they tell you up front. And they said, gosh, I think it was 25 to 30 jobs a day is what they expect you to apply for.
Wow.
They do have software that helps you as well to help kind of automate some of the process, to like fill out the applications for you, and it does make it a lot easier. But they are very upfront with you about that. So I don't want anyone to be, you know, you read these things online. They didn't tell me, like 100% they told you, so
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. They tell you up front, it will take a lot of applications. 100% it will. So if you don't want to apply that many, like it might not be the career path for you. It's an awesome job when you get in, but getting that first job is very tough. It is very tough to do. But they are very upfront with you about it, and they do help you. And you have a I don't know, career coach, I guess, who's alongside you as well. What I love about them, 100% love, is they were great with mock interviews. So
That's cool.
when you finish the course, so after 2 weeks, oh sorry, after 2 months, when you finish the course, they give you questions. They give you a list of like 20 questions, and before you can like graduate from the course, you have to do a mock interview to, I guess, pass that section. And then there's another like 10 questions that they'll do as well. So these are real questions that I 100% was asked on almost every job, every job interview I had. These same exact questions. Like when you first get them, you're like, gosh, are they actually going to ask me that? And yes, they did. So they prep you very well.
That's crazy.
And you also have access to your coach at all times. And I was probably super annoying to mine, like I because I spent the money on it, like I want to make sure I get my money worth.
Yeah.
But they're very, very receptive, and they're constantly giving you feedback. So I'm like, listen, I've sent 500. I've sent 500. I haven't gotten any feedback. No, listen, we can tweak your LinkedIn. We can tweak this. We can do that. So they're constantly trying to help you, trying to move different things. If this is not working, okay, let's try it like this. And like, okay, well now I've done 1,000. I've done 1,500. And so you got to keep going. 100% keep going. And a lot of it was knowing that I had spent the money. I'm not going to give up. I couldn't give up. I did not want to go back to my old job, and it took a long time. It did. I want to say, so I'm currently on my second QA role, my second QA job, and my first one I think took about 4 or 5 months to get that role, and then my second one, I just wasn't a good fit for the first job, and that was an hour away. That one was on site,
Ooh.
but I was like, gosh, yes, I finally got a
Yeah.
job. So I took the first position that I got an offer with, and then for my second position, it took me about 6 months of applying as well.
Oh wow.
And then I think at that point I had been out of the program for a year and a half, and I was still calling my career coach once a week. Anytime I did have like a next step
Mhm.
with a company, I would call my coach like, "Hey, this is the company. This is what they do," and like, "Hey, can we do a mock interview?" Absolutely. So then they would pretend to be in that to be in that environment, to be in that industry, and give me questions based off of what was in the application, what are their values and stuff like that. So it was very helpful.
That's really cool.
The first couple interviews I was horrible at.
I think we all are, but still.
Yeah, and I think it was discouraging, not discouraging, but like being a dietitian, I think I had applied for like 5 roles and I got 5 interviews, and I maybe had like 3 offers. And so then it's like very different. All of a sudden now it's like 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, and like I haven't had any interviews yet. And so it was very different. It was very different.
So, you mentioned, mock interviews, mentorship, help with your resume. What were those all the tools they offered to as part of, the boot camp program?
Absolutely. Yeah. And just to be clear, when I say I spent $5,000, I did the automation portion as well.
Mhm.
I think if you just did the manual, I don't know, that's a couple $1,000s left. Sorry, less. But I did the automation portion as well, which I currently do not even use.
Ah,
But I wanted, okay, like let me see if I can do this.
yeah.
And so with the automation portion, do you want me to go into that as well? Do you want me to stay with manual?
Oh yeah. No, no, go ahead.
Yep. So with the automation portion, you learn Python, and you learn how to actually like make programs that can check a website. So basically, we would mock Target. So we would mock like the Target website, mock Amazon. So like if you were a QA and you would wanted to make sure, okay, do all of these websites work? So you would You would be able to write a program that could open up target.com. It would check all the links. It would check all the boxes, check all the text is correct, and then it would print you out, a final thing that says like, yes, everything is good. Or it would state like, okay, like this is wrong. And it would send you a screenshot of like, this is what the issue is. And so you could learn how to do all that. And I was like, holy crap, it was awesome. And so that part was hard. So definitely that is much more tech involved. That was a lot of studying. That was a lot of calls. Those are the ones where like I was calling my coach at midnight, calling him at 4 in the morning. But like one of the great parts is like having coaches in different parts of the world, so they can match up whatever time you want to call. It was incredible because I don't know, most people probably are working jobs when they're doing this and they can't do these calls during work hours.
Yeah,
And so the fact that like I could do it at midnight, I could do it when everyone was sleeping. It was awesome. Like those were 100% like for me one of the greatest gifts they could have offered.
that's awesome. Can you kind of go into a bit of like what the hiring process looks like for, someone in QA? What was that process? Was it a really intensive interviews, or, how did that look like?
For both jobs that I've had, it starts with just the application, and I think both of them I almost didn't apply. I was like, I don't know if I fit this role. I'm not, like I'm not gonna do it. And I was like, whatever. So I sent the application, and then both of them I think I got a call like immediately. So it's your first call for both of them was HR, just calling like, hey, this is, do you still want this role? Blah blah blah. Is this something you want to? And so you give a little background about yourself, which is something that they've coached you on in in the coaching process. They have okay, your first call is probably HR. This is what they'll ask you, and this is kind of like the banter of that. They get you comfortable to be in that call, which was very helpful. Then the next one was in person with the hiring manager, and then the third interview was with the hiring manager and some of the other QA team members as well, to get kind of more of a feel. But I promise, almost every question that they had given you in these mock interviews, they asked those. They asked those
Nice.
in the in the coaching part. They had said
What a confidence boost, though. You know what I mean?
absolutely. And they said I think from day one they give you the questions and they say start to memorize these, start to memorize these. And like that, like I'll be fine. I need to know those. But like, yes, please, if you take this course, they give you the questions, you will be asked those. You will be asked those questions. Exactly. It was a huge, huge confidence boost. That like you asked the question like, hey, like I've practiced this 1,000 times. It was very nice.
What would you say to someone that is in the position you were a year ago, burnt out, skeptical, but like curious about making this kind of career change? What advice do you have for someone like that?
I think you really got to ask yourself how bad do you want? How bad do you want to make a change? And I think until you're really ready to put the time and put the effort in, really just make sure you're ready mentally. And if you are married, make sure your wife's on board because doing this process is hard enough. But if you don't have a spouse that's on board, I don't know how you'd even do it.
Yeah.
Make sure the whole team is on board, get the train rolling. It's not easy. 100% it's not easy. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not easy. A lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings. Just make sure that you are ready and make sure that you understand going into it that it will not be quick. It's going to be 6 months and you're going to be applying every day. But it is possible. It is possible to do. And I'm in the middle of nowhere, Michigan, and I'm able to get a job that pays well.
Yeah.
So I get paid more now than I did as a dietitian, after 5 years of school.
That's awesome.
It doesn't make any sense.
Your story is so similar to mine. I was a bulldozer operator before I got into tech, and I was just miserable. I made decent money as a bulldozer operator. I was making like $70,000 a year. But I hated my job. It was just so mind numbing. I was miserable. And I went to my wife. I'm like, I can't keep doing this. I got to make a career change. Um, and I knew like I always had a passion for tech and I really wanted to get into tech. I tried several times previously, but, um, I'm like, I kind of want to start researching tech. And she's like, okay, we'll start doing research and don't just quit your job, start looking. And I'm like, okay, okay. So I started studying and stuff like that. While I was studying, I lost my job,
Oof.
and I had to go to my wife, and I'm like, look, there's two options. One, I can just go get a job, put food on the table. I'm going to be miserable,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
I can go that route. Or two, this is my chance to try to break into tech. So we talked about it, and luckily, she of course supported me all the way. And I didn't go through a boot camp, and it was very difficult because I had no degree. I didn't have time to go back to school, and we had just bought a house like not even a year before this happened,
Wow.
and we had three kids, and luckily we had some in the savings, but it took a long time. And the area I lived in, you couldn't get into tech unless pretty much I always remember joking like someone had to die to be able to get in the industry, because as soon as a position would open up, everyone was just like flies on it, and
Yeah.
like they'd be in that position forever. And so we ended up relocating to do this.
Wow. Wow, so you guys moved.
Yeah, so we
Wow.
we moved like 2.5 hours away. And looking back now, if I had gone the a route of like a boot camp, I would have been able to make that switch way sooner without some of the heartache we went through. Is it possible to do without a boot camp? Probably, like you mentioned. Um, but there's no structure. Everyone's telling you to do everything, and for a lot of people, that is really, really hard. So, and that leads me kind of to my next question for you. What are some key differences you think between people who will succeed in boot camps and someone who doesn't?
Oof, that's a good question. Honestly, it depends how bad your situation is. I'd say that if you need it and you want it, it depends. If you're just a quitter, you're doesn't matter what it is, how much money you spend, you're gonna quit. It's something that's hard. It's gonna take a lot of effort. But if you want it, if you truly want it, if you realize that, like, if you can visualize your end goal, that's honestly what kept me going. Was like, okay, I need to work from home. I need to work from home. I need to work from home. I need to be closer. I need to be closer, and just having those thoughts in my head that, like, okay, it is possible, it is possible. And then, like, hearing stories like yours, like you're a guy who was a blue collar worker and then now you got into tech, and like, so someone like you is, it's such an inspiration to be able to hear people like you like tell their story, that like it is possible
Yeah,
for someone who has no technical background is able to do it. So 100% it is possible. And so I always think, like, why not me?
yeah.
If other people can do it, why, like, I should be able to do it too. Like, I 100% can do it too. We've got the power of the internet now.
God, the power.
And do I, do I want to spend the time to do it? It's, and yeah. So, but yeah, one of, a lot of people who do the careers boot camp also don't put the time and the effort in to do it, and they'll start it, but then they don't want to do the applications, and they realize, like, oh gosh, this is a lot of work, and I don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, those people who wouldn't, like, it's probably better that they quit at this point, because by the time they actually get into it and realize, like, everything is not all, roses and stuff, so.
If you are determined enough to sign up for a boot camp, there can be great success. But there definitely has to be that level of commitment, that level of motivation and determination. Like for me, spending 5 grand on a boot camp, I don't want to waste that money. That's enough, motivation for me. I want to get every penny out of that.
Mhm.
But not
Mhm.
everyone thinks that way.
Absolutely.
And looking back on the investment, and not only the financial investment, but the time, do you think you made the right decision? Like, was careers worth it for you?
If you compare it to going back to school, if you compare it to, say, if you did, if you got an associate's, even if you spent 2 years going back. So if you didn't have a degree and you realize, like, hey, I can actually go back to school for free, because they have so many, like, back to school, like back to tech programs, that the government pays for now. If you don't have a degree yet, but you've got to spend 2 years now, and so it's like, I can spend 2 months and then just, like, work my tail off applying, or I can spend 2 years minimum, getting like a actual associate's degree. It's kind of like, what do you want to do? Do you want to work hard now, or are you going to work hard later?
No, absolutely. And, for people who've made it this far in the interview and are interested and curious, we'll actually leave a link down in the description to them. They are sponsoring this episode. I do want to give a shout out to them. It is a great resource. You David's here. His story here is like really been inspirational. David, thank you for taking the time to kind of share your journey for us.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me on. And, I appreciate people like you telling like these real normal people stories.
Yeah.
That's what I love about you. I love about your channel is just normal people. Like they're not trust fund babies. Like they don't have these crazy degrees. They're just normal, everyday people who have just worked hard, and then got what they wanted. And it's awesome. It's an inspiration.
Well, and that was the whole thing for me because that's how I got into the field. I worked hard and I got here and I realized not everyone realizes how achievable a career in the tech industry is. And I want to share other people's stories to hopefully motivate people.
Hmm.
If one person listening to this is motivated by this story, that's worth it for me. I want to try to help people achieve their dreams and maybe give them the push in the right direction. And, if a boot camp is what they need to make that career change out of a job they are miserable in to a enjoyable, lucrative career field in tech, then absolutely, why would I not want to share that story?
Absolutely. And just have people realize that your job is not your identity now. So where you are now,
Yeah.
you can change. Like I thought 30 was old. I thought I couldn't change. I couldn't go back to school. It's not true. Don't waste the rest of your life thinking that like you can only stay in one career. And that is not true at all. The way that they have these different courses and careers and all the like different boot camps set up, like it is possible to change your life now, and change your life, change your family's life. It is incredible.
As we start to land the plane here, I'm curious, like, what is your career goal? Now that you're in working in the field, you're working as a QA tester, what does your future look like? Do you have like a career plan for your next steps? Do you know what that next job position you're looking to, grow into type of thing is?
I've always been in management. Everything I've done, every job I've ever had, I got into management pretty quickly. So that's kind of where I like to be, where I want to be. Um, I would say that. And I do so many things on the side. I do TikTok, Amazon videos. Gotta buy real estate. Being a landlord and all that. So like, there's so many things that you can do outside of your job, but it just gives you the freedom to do those things outside.
That's so cool.
That's what I love about it.
That's awesome. And if people have questions for you, is there a place people can find you and connect with you and ask any questions they might have?
That is a good question. I don't know, give you my email or something, and we'll throw it down there in the link.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely link up that down in the show notes down below. As we close out this episode, any final words of wisdom you'd like to give everyone listening to this that is maybe motivated by this and they're ready to take that dive in?
Absolutely. It just yeah, I would say this is possible for anybody. Like you don't have to be in a big city. I'm in the middle of nowhere. It is possible. Just work hard. You can do it. You don't have to take this. You don't have to take this careers course. It doesn't matter. Do something. If you want it, go get it. If you hate your job, I don't tell you to quit, but do stuff. Do stuff
Yeah.
outside. 100%. Work your tail off. Go get it. Change your life. Change your family's life. Um, yeah, just 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 get after it. Get after it and work hard, and you will be able to do it. I applied to 3,000 jobs. 2,999 said no, but one said yes. One said yes, and that is all you need. All you need is one person to say yes. And then boom, all of a sudden you're a software QA engineer.
Yeah. That's why I tell people when I do my career coaching is, don't lose faith when you're applying for all these jobs. Don't lose hope because, you might get rejected 1,000 times, but it only takes one person to say yes and you're in. And from there, the doors just start opening for you once you start getting into the industry. So,
Absolutely, 100% true.
David, thank you so much for dropping so much wisdom and so much advice for everyone. I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your story with us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you and appreciate everything you and your channel do. It is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And everyone, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you took something away. Again, reminder, if you're interested in checking out Careers, their link is down in the description. Go check them out. See if it's right for you. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And until next time, keep learning.